My name is Donna Gonzalez. I am a jiu-jitsu, women's self-defense, and empowerment coach. I think the world is a better place when badass women are doing badass things. One of my favorite quotes is, "Well-behaved women rarely make history." I couldn't agree more. So, I'm talking to the misbehaved ones. I hope you like it. Amanda, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So, for everybody at home, how long have you been doing jujitsu, and at what point do you feel like you crossed the threshold for becoming a professional grappler? And what does that mean in our sport, since it looks different in other sports?
Yeah, I started jiu-jitsu when I was 16. I'm 24, so if I can do math, that's about 8 years. I, from the get-go, was very into it. I knew I wanted to do it all the time. I never actually wanted to compete. I just was forced to compete by my first coach, and I ended up being pretty decent at it, so I kept competing. As far as the threshold for when I really started taking it seriously and becoming quote unquote like professional, there was a pivotal moment when I was a purple belt before Nogi Worlds where I was having a conversation with someone and they were like, you can win worlds. You know that, right? And I was like, no, I don't know that. That's a foreign concept to me. I'm just doing the competitions that I'm told to do. And so like that conversation to me was, oh, maybe I'm actually good enough to do this professionally. Someone thinks I can win for worlds. Like maybe I can actually do this. And after I did win for worlds, I started getting some opportunities. I started getting like payment here and there for little stuff. Professional grappler to me, that's a tricky one because I think obviously you have to be getting paid for grappling in order to be a professional grappler. I think that's like the main thing is you are getting some form of payment. You are making some type of living off of the sport you're doing. You're not just paying fees to go compete and not getting anything in return. I think it's more complicated than that because obviously the sport is not in a place where typically people can just survive off of competition purses. So I think professional grappler means other things to me. It means that I'm teaching. It means that I'm doing seminars. It means that I'm presenting myself as a professional athlete. So I think there's a lot more that goes into it than just, oh, I'm getting paid to compete. I think there's a lot of other aspects.
Yeah, I agree. I would consider myself a professional grappler, but I don't consider myself a professional competitor. I don't compete enough to be
Yeah.
considered a professional, even though I've been paid to compete. I guess I do qualify as that, but I would never put myself in the same category as you and all the other ladies who do compete on a regular basis. So I think that, yeah, it absolutely can have many different hats and aspects of being a professional grappler, for sure.
Yeah, I actually never thought about that. Like professional grappler versus professional competitor. That is different. And there's a lot of people who are professional, but maybe they only teach, right? So there's a lot of different aspects of it that go into the sport.
Yeah. Was there a moment in your head, like beyond that purple belt world, which for anybody who doesn't follow grappling, there's ranks in jiu-jitsu: blue, purple, brown, black. And so purple is when you're in that like sophomore place. And you're like, "Oh, I can do this." And then black belt is obviously when you're at the, I don't know, master's degree level. Is there a moment beyond somebody telling you you could win world where you were like, "Damn, I am good." You owned it for yourself. It wasn't somebody else telling you that you were good at this sport. It wasn't somebody else validating you. Was there a moment in your head that you were like, "Yeah, I am her"?
Yeah, I think it did come from a competition result. So there was like a couple matches I had with when I started going against people who I had been watching when I was a white belt. That was the moment where I was like, oh, I'm at that level. So for example, I had a match with Tammy Musumeci, love her, like legend of the sport.
Yeah.
Someone who I watched when I first started. And I competed against her when I was a brown belt at ADCC trials and I won the match. And that moment to me, I was like, oh my God, like, I beat someone that I've been watching since I started. So maybe I'm not terrible. Maybe I'm actually pretty decent at this.
Yeah.
And so that for me, that moment was me telling myself, hey, look what you can do. And that gave me a lot of confidence and kind of, I just went from there.
Yeah. How have you molded, or I guess layered, Amanda Bruse, the woman, and what that means, and like how you maneuver through life, and Amanda Bruse, the grappler?
Yeah, that's an interesting topic. I was actually just thinking about this with jujitsu people because a lot of times I feel like our identities get very tied to just being an athlete. which I think is very common for many high-level athletes, is you get a lot just tied to that personality. But I've
Mhm.
always had other things going on. I was always wearing multiple hats. I was always a student. I was always working. I was always also doing jujitsu. But all of the lessons that I learned in jujitsu definitely went into the rest of my life. So especially once I started teaching and becoming more vocal and growing as a teacher in jujitsu, that kind of transferred into other aspects of my life where I was becoming more confident, I was becoming more of a leader and things like that. So I think the lessons that I learned from my like athlete hat also transferred over to everything else I was doing. I hope
Yeah.
that answers that a little bit.
Yeah. Who is Amanda Bruce, the woman, like the complete woman? Who is that
Yes.
entire person?
I'm a very nerdy, like excitable, driven person. I've always been someone with really high standards. That's a good question. I don't know. I've never tied myself to one individual identity. I've always been the person who's searching for new things, who's always learning new things. So I like to
Hmm.
consider myself a student in a lot of different aspects. And I also like to consider myself someone who aims to build community, who loves to connect with people. I love people in general. I love studying. I love studying people. I love studying jujitsu. So I don't know. I view myself as very much of a student of many different things.
Yeah. What type of work do you do outside of jujitsu?
So I have a couple of jobs right now. The most exciting job for me personally is I just started a job where I work with individuals who experience trauma, so people who have PTSD. And basically, I teach jujitsu for one, which is awesome. And I also am a liaison for helping them go through activities like exposure therapy. So we do things that are just
Yeah.
difficult. We do things like surfing, rock climbing, like these activities that make you very physically anxious in order to use it as exposure therapy. For
Hmm.
me, that's my most exciting job because I graduated last year with a bachelor's in clinical psychology from UCSD. So I was looking for something that would combine all of my interests. So that one includes jujitsu, all of those activities that I love, helping people on the front line, mental health. So that's really a job that I've been excited about. And I also work for Jujitero, the apparel brand, and I do website work. I help run the Shopify store. I do custom orders. I help design a little bit of the custom order stuff. So
Nice.
again, wearing lots of hats always.
Yeah. I think that's what we have to do in this world. We're obviously not old enough to remember what it was like a long time ago, but there was a point in time where people like had a career and that's
Yeah,
what they did. And I don't think that exists anymore. I think everybody has to have all of these things going on at all times. And I think that's a good thing because we
yeah.
get to feed all of these things inside of ourselves that maybe people in the past didn't get to. I do exposure therapy with women that I train too. Have you had a moment with a woman who's been whatever her brand of trauma, where you got to use jujitsu or one of these other skills and you were like, oh, this is helping her. This is helping her get through this thing that really affected her life. I know there's been a couple moments for me, and there's also been a couple moments that I'm like, I don't know if I'm qualified to do
Yeah,
this.
of course. Yeah, imposter syndrome has been like common theme with everything I've done, and I think as a teacher of jiu-jitsu, that's something you experience a lot as well. Yeah, with the jiu-jitsu specifically, a lot of the people we deal with, the women in the program have gone through some type of sexual trauma or something like that. So the jiu-jitsu itself is one of the toughest exposures that they deal with. And
Yeah.
there's been many situations already where it's been difficult. They might have had a small crisis trying just getting in the positions, like getting in close guard is something that's super difficult, those
Yeah.
types of things. And being there and just helping them work through it and then seeing them start to enjoy learning and start to feel like they're taking back some of that power once they start learning the jiu-jitsu is
Yeah.
something I never really was a goal of mine to deal with, but it was so eye-opening to
Yeah.
how important the sport could actually be in someone's life. I mean, for me, it was super helpful because I had a really bad like depression, anxiety, and like eating disorder problems, and it like got me
Hmm.
through that. But to see it directly correlate to someone working through something like sexual trauma is like mind blowing. I was like, oh, this is
Isn't
actually
it?
so fulfilling as well.
Yeah. I fell in love with that feeling.
Yeah,
That
it's amazing.
that watching the light go on in women's eyes and like realizing they can do it, realizing they can
Yeah.
take power back into their body through
Mhm.
fighting, which kind of seems counterintuitive, but once you experience it, you get it.
Yeah, 100%. I think women who haven't experienced trauma start feel that. So if you can imagine
Yeah.
going through something like that and then feeling like that, it's just amplifying that feeling.
Yeah. How did it work for you? Like coming out of an eating disorder and your depression, like what's the magic in jujitsu for you?
Yeah, I think there's a few aspects. One was the pure community of it. I felt like I started at a very small school that was felt like a big family. It just felt like I got adopted into a family that was there to support
Yeah.
me. And every single day I went in, people were pushing me past my comfortability. They were like putting me in situations I was uncomfortable with, forcing me to open up and talk to people and all of these things, which was really helpful. And then as far as the eating disorder, I learned that I had to fuel my body for a purpose, and I found a purpose in my body beyond purely something aesthetic. So it was
Mm,
really just like, I'm so hyper fixated on how I look all the time, and that feels like the only purpose of my body. Now I'm doing something where it's purely focused on how I'm performing and how I'm able to use my body for a sport. And it took a lot of the emphasis off of what I looked like, and I was able to just focus on something completely different. So it really helped. And also, like, just on a practical level, like, I had to stop a lot of my behaviors in order to train. Like, I had bulimia as well. So, like, I couldn't be sitting there and binging and purging all the time and then going and expecting myself to go train. Like, it just wasn't practical. So, it was a huge, like, motivator in order to get healthy so that I could go train.
yeah. That's huge.
Yeah, huge.
Good for you for finding that.
Yeah, I needed it so badly at the time that I started. And I'm so happy that I found it at that time. Like, obviously, we all wish we found it younger, but for me, that was the perfect time to find it.
Yeah, I agree. Who's Amanda Bruce in the world of dating and like being in relationships while being a badass black belt? Does it
Um,
affect your dating life at all?
I gotta say, I always dated jujitsu guys.
Well, there you go.
Well, okay, here's my opinion on it. Like, I don't think I would necessarily have to be with a jujitsu guy, but I think there's a level of like obsession and also just time that comes with being a jujitsu athlete that if you're dating someone who doesn't do it, they might not understand. And also, if you're dating a guy who doesn't do it, he's probably not going to understand it and he might get jealous or things like that. There's just a lot that you don't get unless you do it. So for me, it was just always easier to be with someone who was in the same sport. Also, obviously, that comes with some cons if you're dating someone who's also kind of high level. But I think I could date someone who was obsessive in their own way about something else. You know what I mean? But they have to
Oh,
have
yeah.
that kind of like fire and obsession and understand why I also have that. It could be like a guy who's
Yeah.
obsessed with triathlons. I don't know. But you have to have that kind of that drive and that grit for something that maybe someone who doesn't do a sport like that won't understand.
Yeah. I don't think people get that we will pick grappling over anything. It doesn't
Anything.
make sense to a lot of people. They're
No.
like, "What do you mean you don't want to go out to dinner?" Or what do you mean you
8:30
like
Friday night, and I'm still on the mat. They're like, "Do you wanna do
100%.
something else?"
Yeah. Yeah, where else would I be? Yet for the last I'm going on 16, 17 years doing jujitsu,
Oh, that's awesome.
and I can't tell you the last time that I, like, sat at home and watched TV,
Yeah,
and that's what I do in the evening,
for sure.
and I don't even know who I am if I'm not doing that. What do you mean?
Eh,
You want me to sit home and watch TV?
yeah, I can't,
I could
yeah.
be choking people.
It's so much time too, like, it's so much, especially if you're a competitor or you're just very involved, like, you're involved in a school heavily, you teach all the time.
Yeah,
It is just so much practical time that I
yeah,
think that's the part that someone who doesn't understand it would get jealous of, is just the time that you're not spending. They might even think it's because of them, but you're like, "No, dude, I'm just obsessed with this. I have to do it all the time."
yeah, you think about all that we dream about positions. We
Yeah.
in our head, like, "Peel, what are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking about how to pass somebody's guard."
Yeah. It's been so long since I haven't done jujitsu that I forgot, like, how crazy we are for doing this so much.
And just how it is just, like, really little minute details that you're thinking about in your head that people would be like,
Yeah.
"What the
Like,
hell?"
no, I get you go to the gym 2 or 3 times a week, but that's not what I'm talking about.
I go to the gym too. I
Yeah.
go do HIIT classes, but then I go and grapple.
100%. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm up at 5:30 because I need to go train before I start my day.
Yeah, for sure. So I've seen you make a lot of posts recently about women's pay in jujitsu, and I think this is a huge topic that we need to be talking about because the sport is only reaching a place where anybody's making
Mhm.
it. When I started as a dinosaur 17 years ago, there were very few people making money.
Mhm.
Eddie Bravo was one of them, and it's because he was traveling every weekend and teaching seminars. And that's my coach. Other guys who were maybe getting paid for certain things, but nobody was making money doing jujitsu. And then recently, people have started getting paid, and every other sport in the world, because women are the minority in the sport. We're even now, a very small percentage of people in this sport. We are not getting the same type of payment as the men. And I would just love to hear your thoughts on all of that.
Yeah. I so how do I so I have a problem with the main thing I have a problem with is I think we should be getting paid based on the audience we're bringing, based off of things like that. So one of the recent examples that actually upset me was there was like an ADCC Thailand situation where they had prize money for competitors, and it was like a normal tournament where you pay your fee to get into the tournament, and then whatever, that's it. So everyone's paying a registration. The men's division, like the men's expert division, was getting paid, I don't know what amount it was. It was like, I'm going to butcher the amounts, but basically the women's division was getting like, I don't know, 10 or 20% of whatever the men's was, but it was the same divisions, which means the same amount of girls are paying the registration. You're just paying them less prize money because they're girls. They're paying the same amount to the tournament. So it was literally just blatantly just saying, we want to pay the men more. We don't want to pay the women, even though they're paying the same registration. And if doing something like that, it should be based off of how many people in your division are signed up. Okay, so that's how many registrations there are. And then you can base the prize money off of that. But if you're just going to say the women are getting paid less, that doesn't make any sense. I think that we as women, there's some women who are like, okay, we need equal pay, whatever. We also have to ourselves create an environment where we're bringing in money to tournaments, where we're bringing in views to tournaments, where we're getting more views than the guys. That's what's going to show them, hey, we deserve to be paid this amount. So there's a lot of work that we have to do that's going to show and bring eyes to the sport. And like that should be rewarded with pay. And we're still working on that. But obviously in these situations where we are bringing eyes to the sport, we are doing things like that, we need to be compensated. And I do see a lot of situations where we're just not, just because.
Yeah, I think that there aren't excuses when you look at matches who bring just as much eyeballs on. Put a match on the UFC Fight Pass. All their women's matches get just as many views as the men.
Look at the Fion match. That got more views than like any other match of CJI, I think, or close to it, right? We can bring eyes to the sport. There's a lot of guys who I feel like just are like, no one wants to watch women. That's not true.
That's not true in grappling. I remember, and this was a valid argument, when they started adding women into MMA. And you could argue that because the women were only getting added onto the pro shows at about a decade later than the men, that their training was also behind, right? They weren't at the same level wrestling. They weren't at the same level, whatever, like with the entire sport. But women in grappling, even though they haven't been getting paid and training at the highest level, have still been trained. Those of us that were training in rooms full of men for the last 20 years, the level is there. You can't argue that women aren't putting up the same technical level that the men are these days.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. There's so many examples of even the younger generation now is arguably more technical than the generation before them. So it's almost the opposite. Like the women are just even getting better now. So even the kids, like look at Helena, look at Sarah Galvao. These are some of the most technical people in the sport, not just women. And they're only like 17, 18.
Yeah. Put on your psychology hat for a second. And are you familiar with, I don't know what it's called, but when one monkey learns a skill that it like spreads, it's almost psychologically through the like they teach each other, but the skill spreads fast as more of them learn. Do you think that's happening in jiu-jitsu?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can see it most clearly with, like I said, the newer generation, and just because of how much the sport is growing, there's so much more knowledge transfer occurring that people are just getting better a lot faster, and the level is just continuing to rise faster and faster.
Yeah. What have you seen most? What's your biggest observation? Not women, not men, just of jiu-jitsu since you started?
Since I started, there's a lot more people who are just full-time athletes who are just making it work and really devoting a lot of their life to just becoming full-time athletes. There's a lot more promotions that are available. We're on UFC Fight Pass now. Like that was not an idea that I thought was going to happen. So it's becoming less monopolized. It's not just, oh, you're either on Flow Grappling or you're not. There's all these different opportunities. There's a lot more pay in things like, one, people are getting paid like $50,000 bonuses to do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Things that never were happening even when I started 8 years ago. So it's skyrocketing, and more people, like when I bring up jiu-jitsu, when I used to bring it up, sometimes people knew what it was, sometimes people didn't. Almost every
Mhm.
time I bring it up now, people know what I'm talking about. Like, they know what the sport is. So the public also is starting to just know about the sport a lot more.
Yeah. If somebody made you queen of jujitsu for the day, what rules would you impart on all of us?
On just like on
The
what?
sport. The sport. You are the queen of jujitsu. Tell us about your kingdom.
I think Well, okay. I think that jujitsu would benefit a lot from a consistent rule set as well. I think jujitsu would benefit from testing, like steroid testing across the board. Only because, not that I care that much, but because I feel like we need a level of professionality that we maybe don't have. Um, a lot of other sports have a long time and a long history of building rules, of building these rule sets and this kind of just systems in place of how they are as athletes, how they compete as athletes and things like that. And we
Yeah.
don't really have that. We're all over the place. So I want everything to get combined and we all need to come together. I feel like things are very divisive right now as we're figuring things
Mhm.
out. Hey, I hate IBJJF. Hey, I hate ADCC. Hey, like we need to come together and create something so that we can be like one force to be reckoned with.
How do we do that though? When there is people running the IBJJF and then there's EBI and then there's the sub only guys and there's ADCC, nobody's going to be like, you're in charge and we'll just agree with you. Like, how do we get all these uh testosterone filled people
Yeah, it's
to
a good question.
to become
Good
cohesive?
question. Because I think that there's no reason that jiu-jitsu shouldn't be in like the Olympics, for example, right? But it's we're not.
But gi or no gi and what rule set?
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this because there's obviously like with this sport too, it's tricky because there's almost two sports within jiu-jitsu. There's gi and there's no gi, and they're completely different and they have different audiences sometimes as well.
Mm,
It seems like no gi is becoming the thing that's more popular to like the masses. Obviously, we're seeing the pay go towards things like UFC Fight Pass, One, and things like that. So it seems like that's the route that's going to get us more eyes, but I don't really know the answer. And I think what we've been doing over the past 10 years is testing out those answers with all these different things. We just have to pick a couple things that we see are working and put a lot of efforts into that. And maybe, yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer.
yeah. What do you think the most valuable components of a unified rule set would be?
The most valuable components of a unified rule set. We have to make a rule set that's exciting enough for people to
Mm-hmm.
watch. That's one thing. So, for example, I think some of the rules in IBJJF can make the sport a little bit boring or allow for certain stalling or they're removing moves that will make it more exciting. I think we have to decide the rules that we think are going to be fair, exciting, people are going to want to watch it and gives athletes the ability to showcase their skills. I just don't know how to combine that into one thing that everyone agrees on.
Okay. Gi or no gi?
See, you can't ask me that because I love Nogi so much. I'm so biased for that. I do think they both have their place. You can't disrespect the gi. It's the history of the sport is predominantly in the gi in Brazil. So I don't think the gi is really dying. I think the gi is lacking some of the stuff that the no gi has as far as all of these new promotions and fighter pay and like exciting rule sets. I think you could do a lot of that stuff in the gi. I think it's just not being done because people are
Mm-hmm.
very tied to things like IBJJF because of the long-standing kind of respect that the name has. But I think they're almost too tied to it, and they're not willing to open up their eyes and move on to different things.
And you don't think IBJJF is willing to evolve?
I think they might be, but I don't know because the organization itself doesn't seem to be as concerned with the quality of repaying the athletes or hyping up it seems like somewhat of a money mill sometimes. Obviously,
Mm,
like it's difficult for people to even compete in these tournaments because they're so expensive. But then you see the pay for winning world, it's good, but it's not like ADCC level good. And why is it not
yeah.
when they probably have the money for that? They make a lot. So
Yeah.
it's where are these funds going? What are you really is your motivation really to help the athletes or is it just to continue the machine that you've built?
Yeah. Okay, you're still queen for a day. What are you getting rid of in jujitsu? What has to go?
Oh man, what has to go? Um, I don't know. I don't know what has to go. As far as competitions, I don't know. You give me an idea.
I don't know. You're
I
the
don't know
queen.
either.
Let's see. Okay, an IBJJF advantage points. Do
Oh,
we need
okay.
those? Do we need
But
those? Do
yeah,
we need EBI overtime? I know you
great.
have an opinion on that. I have an opinion on that. Do we need points for takedowns in jiu-jitsu? We're not
True.
wrestlers.
I think the advantages thing is a good point because I think that rule alone allows for a lot of really boring matches. Oh, I also think you should get rid of closeouts like completely. I don't think you
Okay.
should be able to close out with anyone. I think you should just go for it. Like I've seen the Rotolo brothers fight each other like multiple times. I know it's your teammate, I know it's your friend, but at the end of the day, we're here to give a good show to people watching. And I don't
Yeah.
want to see the finals of worlds get closed out. I don't know if that's allowed anymore.
For
But
anybody who doesn't know what a closeout is, tell us.
basically, maybe you're with a teammate and you're gonna just decide who wins. You're gonna go out and someone's gonna get their hand raised without fighting. So there's not gonna be a match. You just pre-decided who's gonna win.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't like it either. I'm friends with almost every single woman I've ever competed against, and I would expect nothing less for them to try and absolutely murder me.
Yeah, and if you're an athlete, like that should be something that you should want, right? Like you should want to have matches. You should want to have your matches be exciting, and you shouldn't take it personally, right? Like even if my best friend decided, okay, yeah, I want to compete against you, I would want them to go as hard as possible and put on the best show because I want their career to advance. I want the opportunity for my career to advance. It's at the end of
Mhm.
the day an individual sport. It's not a team sport as much as we like to think of it as a team sport. It's really not.
It's an individual sport that people have to sacrifice their body to you
Yes.
in order to happen. That's the sacred that when I'm giving my speech at the end of the night to my classes, like this is the sacred deal that we make with our
You're
teammates is I'm going to sacrifice my body to you and you're going to sacrifice your body to me so that we can become better people. And I can't do this without you, even though it's an individual sport.
Yeah, you need a team behind you, but at the end of the day, competition-wise, it's you versus one other person.
Yeah. What's the hardest thing you've ever had to do inside of jujitsu?
I think dealing with injuries is the hardest thing to do to that I've had to deal with because it takes away not only maybe you can't train, but then like mentally working through something like an injury is really difficult. There's a lot of different aspects that go into it, and it's one of those things that can make or break a lot of different athletes.
Yeah. What's the hardest thing you've ever had to do outside of jujitsu?
Hardest thing I've had to do outside of jiu-jitsu. Man, graduating college was pretty difficult. Balancing everything that I was doing in my life was pretty difficult and trying to like deal with my own mental like anxiety and things like that. I think the hardest struggles I've had in my life are just like purely myself and like my mental health.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing I've dealt with. Like I mentioned, like going through an eating disorder, I had a lot of periods in my life where I was very depressed. Those battles are much harder than any battles I've ever had on the mat. 100%.
Totally agree. How do you deal with them when they rear their heads while you're training? Have you been in a match where you've been almost broken mentally and you had to find that place inside of yourself to
Yeah,
where good?
I think there's been a lot of times in matches where I start to have a lot of self-doubt because that's something I've struggled with outside of jiu-jitsu. But the years of training and the years of being in a room like Autos where it's super difficult and you're constantly dealing with really hard training and really hard things, that's built me up to a point where I have been able to get the confidence knowing that I can fight very hard and that I'm very tough. So that kind of experience in that room has showed me that I'm really tough. And when I'm on the competition mats, honestly, most of the time who I'm competing against is nothing compared to the stuff I've dealt with in training. And that's given me the confidence in those times. Like I've had to dig deep. And really at the end of the day, it's what's the worst thing that's going to come from you fighting as hard as you possibly can right now? If you think you're
Mhm.
losing right now, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if you decide I'm just going to fight as hard as I can? There's only upside, and I think a lot of the times when you're competing, you're focused on what if negatively, what if I lose, what if I get embarrassed, what if but if you can just change that and focus on the positives, what if I have an amazing performance? What if I get an opportunity after this that changes my life? If you look at that, it doesn't seem so scary to fight as hard as you can because you're just focused on, well, what if this goes well? Not what if I get hurt? What if this goes super, super well?
Yeah. Where do you see specifically women in jiu-jitsu going in the next 10 years, knowing what you've seen in the last 10 years and the tremendous growth that we've had. I remember there's been times where Eddie makes comments like, man, in 50 years in jiu-jitsu, they're going to be doing stuff that we haven't even thought about. They're going to be like suspended in the air doing jiu-jitsu and things like that. What's your crazy prediction for where we're going?
I think we're going to be at a much higher level. I think we're going to be everywhere. We're already starting to be like, as soon as UFC Fight Pass started up, the women were there, right? So
Yeah.
I think we're going to see things like CJI, but for women. I think we're going to see the ADCC division having as many weight classes as we need. And like all of these things that we've been wanting for years, I think they're all going to happen because there's just such an influx of women in the sport that it's inevitable for it to happen. I remember being at my first school and it was me and one other girl. And then slowly we started to get a sprinkle of like 3, 4, 5. And that was crazy to me. And then I went to autos and I was like, oh, if I never wanted to train with a guy again, I wouldn't have to because there's so many women here. And there's 6 black belt girls here at any given class. So I think you're just going to see a difference in there's just going to be women everywhere. I hope also that there's more women-owned schools. I think that's something that I've also not really seen much of. I would like to see us more on the forefront of the business side as well. And I think that is definitely going to happen as well. So that's something I hope for.
Yeah. Do you want to open a school someday?
Yeah, I absolutely want to open a school. I think that's as I've started, and I never really thought about it, but as I started teaching more and more, it's just been so fulfilling. And I was at 10th Planet Portland actually teaching a women's summit, which was amazing because we had 2 days, 4 different women teaching, and then it was all girls. And I was like, this is crazy. Same thing with Alchemized Camp, right? Like it's all girls everywhere. And if I could have my own school, I just know the women's program is going to be the best. I just know I can build it out so well. And I've gotten to watch the Autos program since when Angelica was running it. I've just watched it grow. So I feel like I have a good idea of what we need and how we can really progress.
Yeah. Are you now the coach that you wish you had? I am.
Yeah. And like, again, with the imposter syndrome thing, I teach a lot of kids as well. And I've had a lot of parents talk to me about just, this is really inspiring. Like, it's very important for her to have a role model to look up to. I taught up at 10th Planet up in LA. What is it? Oh, 10th Planet Burbank, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Manny, yeah.
When?
Like 2 months ago, I did a kids seminar up there.
I love that. I love those guys. I know all the 10th Planet people, obviously.
And
yeah.
I got like a message from Manny afterwards, and he's like, you have no idea how much this means to the little girls in the class because they don't have that up here. And that was so eye-opening to me because I remember when I was starting, even though I was 16, I wasn't a kid, but I was constantly seeking out that kind of like female role model. And obviously I had Louisa Montero and all these people on social media, but to have that in class, in person teaching you is something else. And it gives you this confidence that you can't really get from being under a guy, which nothing against, I've had plenty of amazing instructors, but it's just, hey, I'm where you want to be. Just follow my lead. And from another woman, that's just amazing.
It is. It's something that you can't explain to another person unless you experience it. And like you see another woman, you walk in and you're like, oh, you're the authority figure in this class.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. It's a lot of power. Like I was so shy and so whatever, but then I go in and I see all these strong women and they're just confident and they're just like, it was so inspiring for me to be in that room with all those women.
Yeah. What do you think that is the next evolution of you in all the hats that you wear as a competitor, as a coach, the work that you do outside of it? Like, where are you headed?
Yeah, I'm figuring that out still. But goal-wise,
figure it out now.
I'm 24. I still have a good amount of competition.
So much time.
Yeah, I still have a good amount of competition left in me. I want to take the athlete thing as far as I can. Like, my goals, I want to be an ADCC. I want to win ADCC. I want to be on big promotions. I want to make that name for myself. And then I want to go into the teacher role and I want to have a gym and I want to be in that role. I want both of those personalities and both of those roles to be done to the fullest extent. So that's really what I'm focused on is like being the best athlete I can be, as well as still honing in on my teaching skills and teaching a lot more seminars and teaching a lot more kids and all these kinds of things. Personal life as well. I love the jobs that I have right now. I love the flexibility that I have. I always have wanted my own thing. I actually I had an apparel brand for a while, a couple of years ago, like a women's apparel brand. I would love to restart that and be like the owner of a business. That would be another goal for me as well. So I'm hoping I can just keep finding things that are going to be combining all of my love, and I can just make that work, and I can just do that kind of thing forever.
I love that. What do you hope for the girls that you train and the women that you train?
I just want them to go. I want to be able to give women the start in the sport that I wish I had. It was definitely hard to be in a male dominated gym and like finding my role in that and finding my way through that. So I would love to create an environment where like right off the get-go, they're getting just support from another woman and they're just able to grow and flourish and in that way with that support. And they don't have to
Yeah.
go through that like finding their way through that kind of situation.
If a woman was outside of San Diego, I know if a woman is in San Diego, I'm assuming she can do private lessons with
Oh
you.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. What about if she was somewhere else, but she wanted to get some guidance from you as a coach?
Yeah, I have a Patreon, so if anyone subscribes to my Patreon, like I'm happy to like do personalized videos. I also do a lot of match reviews and stuff like that through BJJ Mental Models. I'm a coach on there, so I do video reviews and things like that. In the future though, I would really like to start like a jiu-jitsu accelerator program. I know Kendall Roosing has an accelerator program for women where she's doing one-on-one coaching. That is something I've been plotting for a while that I want to figure out how to do because I would love to be able to connect with women and give them guidance even if they're not in this area. So I definitely want to start that soon as well.
I love that. And you're going to come teach a women's grappling club
Yes,
session for me, which I'm
absolutely.
super excited about. What do you love to teach the most?
I love to teach. My favorite stuff to teach is submission stuff from like front headlock. I love to teach
Mm,
like anaconda chokes, guillotines, and things like that. And I also love to teach passing. It's like just my favorite thing to teach. I don't know why.
you are a
Yeah,
fantastic passer.
I love
Um,
passing.
what do you think the most satisfying submission to get is?
I. That's a good question. I think for me, chokes are the most satisfying, only because like this is gonna sound like kind of messed up, but like knowing that if you held it like they'd be out, like out, that's the ultimate win in a fight. I've seen girls like I think it was Tammy Musumeci break her arm in the middle of a match and keep going.
You win?
I don't remember. I think it was Tammy. It was like a gi match from like 2016 or something. But I remember I think it was her, broke her arm completely and they like stopped it, I think, because they were like, bro, what are you doing? Like, I've definitely
Adrenaline.
I've hurt some people pretty badly with joint stuff and they've kept going. So I think chokes are the most like the match would be over.
Yeah. Yeah. There's the old school stories about the guy that breaks his arm and tucks it in his gi and he keeps
Right.
going. So, of course. All right. What is the thing that you hate? Just when somebody gets you with it, you're like, oh, it grinds your gears.
No, I gotta say that's like any gi choke. Like any me and a bow and arrow, like I'm not gonna be happy, dude. There's something about it where I'm just like, ugh.
Mine's wrist lock.
See, I knew you were gonna
Like,
say that. And everyone says, and I love them.
I do like if somebody puts me in a wrist lock from I'm in their guard,
Yeah.
it does make me laugh.
Oh, another one that makes me mad though. You know when you're taking someone's back and they try to do that like arm bar where they just like pull down on your wrist on your underhook or whatever, like they trap your arm and they do the short arm bar when you have
Yes.
back. That pisses
Yes.
me off because I'm like, bro, I have your whole back. If you tap me right now from the little elbow submission, like I'm gonna
Right.
be upset.
I did have a big giant Brazilian man tap me once, but to be fair, he was like, I don't know, like 220.
If
Just
you
a
catch it,
giant man.
it's legit.
But like I jumped on his, we weren't even doing jujitsu.
Oh,
This was a million years ago. And I like jumped on his back and he just grabbed my arm and like
I hate that because that's what we consider the most dominant position in jiu-jitsu is the back. Like, that should be it. And then if you get tapped while you're on someone's back, that is just
or if they're crossing their ankles and you
okay. That one I have a fix for though. If you just push
Oh.
down with both your hands on the back of their head, so you release all your grip, push down on the back of their head, and they can't extend their body, so they'll never be able to finish it like fully. It might hurt a little, but they won't finish it.
all right,
I
fair
actually,
enough.
I try
You
to
can make
for that.
you can make a video of that and we will attach it
Okay.
to this podcast.
I'm so down. That's like my favorite thing. I'll cross my ankles on purpose in a bad spot so they go for it, and then I'm just like,
All right, I'm gonna try it. What do you want the world to know about you?
oh, okay. I am known, I feel like now, for having a really bad RBF, resting face.
Really?
Look at any competition photo you've ever seen of me, and I have a
Game face,
lot of
baby.
people who like talk to me about this and they say, "Oh, you look intimidating, you look angry, you look like upset." And I always have gotten this my whole life. So I just want people to know, especially if you come try to talk to me, I'm more anxious than you and I'm really nice. I
You
am
are
one-
very nice.
yeah, I'm very nice, but it's funny because every picture I see of myself, I'm like, God, I just look so mean right there. But yeah, so that's something to know. Don't worry, I'm more socially anxious than you. Come up to me, say hi. I'm nice.
What do you want to be remembered for?
I just want to be remembered for being kind and supportive. Like I want I want people to remember me as an athlete. I want to be great. I want to have that kind of legacy, but that's not the most important thing to me at all. I just want people to remember me for being someone who wants to help people and create a good environment and support people. That's actually what I want to be remembered for.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, tell everybody how they can follow you, how they can find you. You said Patreon, Instagram, and what are all the things that they can contact you for?
Yes. So my Instagram is amandabruse.bjj. On my Instagram, it'll have links to I have a YouTube, I have a Patreon, which is also in that on my Instagram. I have a TikTok that I sometimes use a little bit for my cats. And you can contact me for lots of stuff. You can contact me for if you want video reviews, if you want me to host or you want to host a seminar for me, if you want to just ask me questions about jiu-jitsu, if you want privates, anything like that, you can contact me. I'm happy to talk to people.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want everybody to know?
No, I think that was it.
All right, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today, and hopefully I will get to train with you soon.
Yeah, I'll train with you soon. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Have a good day. Thank you.
All right, thanks.